Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sara Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And today we have Chef Aaron Clyne.
So we recorded this episode quite a while back before Aaron released his new book.
His book is called Travel, Eat, Repeat, a culinary nomad journal. And it documents his travels with his wife and exploring different lands and different foods.
And I just watched Aaron on At Home with Chef D, the new season, and they made the most amazing looking pad thai.
Here he is, Chef Aaron Clyne.
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Do you enjoy Bonn Park podcast?
If so, we would really appreciate it if you
Leave a review,
like, rate, subscribe, but most importantly,
share directly from the platforms
with your family and friends. That's the best way to get the word out to everybody, and more people will get to see our show that way. So click those like buttons and share our show. Thank you.
Thanks.
On with the show. This is it. Bonn Park is supported by Taco Farm. Mexican-inspired and locally sourced, Taco Farm celebrates one of the world's greatest cuisines while supporting small farms right here in Waterloo region. We like that. Taco Farm makes everything in-house, right down to the tortillas, hot sauces, salsas, and infusions. The food is fresh and full of rich flavors and firmly rooted in Mexico, while still leaning heavily into the Fat Sparrow food that really schmecks adopted philosophy. The whole menu, from the amazing fries supreme to their famous tacos, fried chicken, nachos, and literally the whole enchilada, is gluten-free. Except for the dessert churros, which are outstanding if you're okay with gluten. Taco Farm's restaurant is at 8 Herb Street in Uptown Waterloo, near King, and they're on DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, and Uber Eats. Want to eat local but take your taste buds international? Taco Farm has your ticket. We love this place.
Hi, I'm Ron Caudle, the Codfather from Caudle's Catch Seafood. At Caudle's, we bring in thousands of pounds of fresh seafood every week. Our staff are trained and can help you with your selection and cooking instructions. Try some of our new fresh oven-ready seafood entrees and appetizers. Cook with confidence. For party time, we have seafood platters, shrimp, crab, and lobster. We also have Caudle's gift cards for the holidays. Shop in person or online at caudlescatchseafood.com.
I think the next step down from the internet connection I have is actually dial-up or some dude running information back and forth manually. I don't know.
Carrier pigeons.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
All right, we'll get started. Chef Aaron Clyne, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We're very excited to talk to you. I know I say that to everybody, but it's always true.
Yep, it is.
So normally we start out asking how you met one of us, because it's been a lot of people that we know, but actually Marshall has an interesting story about how we came to invite you to the podcast.
Yeah, we were recording with Chef D. Chef D is my favorite chef to watch on TV. I've watched every episode of his shows. And when we were done, he said, you know who you need to talk to? He said, Chef Aaron Clyne. And he told us about you and your travels and your book. And I think we emailed you next day.
Yeah, I think that was true. No, that was very kind of him. He's a very, very, very genuinely and authentically kind man. So that's awesome.
We totally got that vibe from him when we were recording. Not only did he feed us, so we came to record, he was doing us a favor. He fed us, and he's just so open and genuine, and you can tell that he just appreciates and is grateful that life is happening.
Yep.
But one thing he didn't appreciate that he told us about is broccoli.
Right, and tofu.
Ooh.
And when I asked him why he didn't like broccoli, he was like, it's just broccoli.
And I said, so having a marinated tofu and put rubs on it? He goes, yeah.
It's a tough medium.
Yeah. No, I actually quite enjoy tofu, so we'll have to have a debate about that one later. But broccoli, not cauliflower though. That growing up, we got one thing we didn't have to eat. We got to pick that one thing. For me, it was cauliflower. I don't know why. I think I just picked it because I used to eat everything. But my brothers changed kind of every meal. But mine was always cauliflower, so I can kind of get the broccoli thing.
That's an interesting parenting tool. Just let you pick one thing that you don't have to touch.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it came out, you felt like you had power over dinner. But
Smart.
Yeah, you had a voice.
Yeah.
I like that. So since we were talking about Chef D so much, why don't we talk about your relationship to Chef D?
Yeah. I work for Chef D, Chef D TV, which is kind of ever expanding and ever evolving. I met Chef D many times throughout my career in Waterloo region. Obviously, he's a fairly prominent figure. But a guy, a really good friend of mine, is actually the executive chef for the company. So when I got back from my trip, he said, "Hey, do you want to give us a hand?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I'll think about it." I wasn't looking to jump into anything right away. I wasn't obviously looking at thinking I was coming back to a global pandemic either. But here we are. So,
isn't that sometimes when the best jobs happen when you're not looking for them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
When your mind's open to them. Well, let's rewind. Let's go way back to the beginning.
Okay.
So let's start with your education started at George Brown College.
Yep.
Yeah. And you were doing their culinary arts program.
Yep. Culinary arts program. It was a 2-year program. Still when it was pre renovations, and it's fantastic school. I think just pre the big reno, it was more about the student and more about the culinary arts, and now I think it's more about trying to appeal to vast amounts of up and coming chefs. So I feel like I don't know, it was one of the better schools to go to, which is why I think I enjoyed going.
When you're in a culinary school, so I went through a fine arts program, like studio. So I'd be in a studio with like 10 other students painting, and we'd see each other's work, and you could see who was working hard and who wasn't, right? And some people who had some natural, gifts, and some who didn't. When you're in a culinary arts school, is it similar in that way? Like, are you able to see, wow, this person seems to really get it faster than everybody else, or this person has a really special kind of knack for this?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely you find out the pecking order pretty quick, and either make a push to be kind of in the top. I mean, there was the attrition rate was pretty unbelievable. My graduating class, there was only about half a dozen of us from year one. So out of 3 classes, all at about 25 kids. So it was a very small group. And I mean, some of them went and got jobs, some of them, but the dropout and failure rate was pretty high. The standards were fairly high. So
it's interesting to hear your perspective that you were speaking about earlier about how maybe the approach of how that school is going about things. I'm going to try and reword that. Maybe the approach of how things are taught has changed. My father-in-law used to teach butchering at George Brown for years. This would have been before your time. And it was a booming program at the time, but with the changes in the growth that George Brown faced, he was sort of sent to retirement. Bye, before he was ready. So he really enjoyed his time there. He felt really connected to the students.
I feel like they're trying to make it a larger program than I think it once was. They're trying to appeal to kind of a wider demographic and a wider base. I've taught a couple of classes at Conestoga College, and you go in and half the kids are there because they want to come to Canada and come to school. A good chunk of the kids are there because they just want to learn how to cook. There's less and less that actually want to take it on as a profession or a career path, where when I went to school, and I'm sure it was for years and years before that, the people that went to culinary school were trying to fight to get a head chef job or get into the best restaurants and work their way up. And I find it's more, some people take it as kind of a leisure credit now, as I want to learn how to make risotto, so let's go to culinary school for a year. It's it's odd. It's strange, actually. But
And Aaron, when do you actually become a chef? Are you a chef once you're done school, or is it kind of like?
Was it like engineering? You have to like work for 5 years and like.
Or I find with artists, they don't call themselves professional artists until
Most artists don't call themselves artists anyway.
That's right. Yeah.
Imposter syndrome.
No, but the professional part usually comes when you're being paid, right?
Yes.
And it's like, okay, this is my career. And but when do you actually become a chef, and how do you define that? You say, okay, I'm a chef.
I'm sure if you asked 100 chefs, you'll get 100 different answers. There's the metric of if you get a diploma with your name on it and a seal. That's one. If you get the government, if you go through and get the government red seal, that's another. If you get a job where your title is chef, that could be another. So I don't know. There's guys that I know that have gone through and achieved every kind of accreditation you could possibly get and gotten every diploma and seal, and then they don't stack up against the guys that have zero schooling and anything, and they've been in the industry for 20 years and worked their way up to the top. So it's really hard to say when do you become a chef. I don't know. Maybe it's an interpersonal, Joshua Tree kind of moment. Like you go in the desert and I think I'm a chef now. I guess.
That's fantastic. Marshall and I were just talking about similar. Is it the education or is it the hands-on experience that defines you in what it is that you do every day? We were just talking about that a couple of days ago. So you finish school, you start young, you get into all these kitchens in Toronto, and then you start running your own. You start, you're the head of what do I want to say? You're a head chef.
Yep.
Yeah. So then you're a head chef at 22 years old.
Yep. I worked in and around Toronto for a couple years after college. Came back to Waterloo region, and I think when you have the opportunity to work in some of the larger cities that have some of the more competitive kitchens, and then you come down to kind of a smaller climate, we'll call it. I think that kind of gives you an advantage. So it's half timing, half hard work and dedication. I was in the right place at the right time. The opportunity arose, and the rest is history, as they say. So
Let's talk about your book, because that will kind of tell the story of where you've been for years and where you've traveled, and the timing of it is certainly interesting. I guess it came out just before the pandemic.
Honestly, as kind of crazy as it sounds, it was always an idea we kicked around, but it was my wife and I would talk about, wouldn't it be nice of the big dream or the bucket list item of, what if we just dropped everything and traveled the world? And, any kind of sensible person, they all have the same response, like, oh, we can't do that. Oh, we have responsibilities. Oh, there's a mortgage. Oh, there's we have, I guess cats are like kids, I guess, but, we have friends and family and responsibilities, and we can't do that. And we brushed it off. And then one day it was the exact same day that my wife came home from work, and she works in dental and absolutely loves her profession and loves the people she works with. I was working for a very prominent company, and it was a very good job. I was happy with everything, and we both kind of came home and looked at each other. We were having a beer, and it just came up, if we don't do this now, I don't think we're ever going to do it. And we went to Chapters and bought a big laminated map and a couple of whiteboard markers, and we were on our way. It was pretty, because you're trying to talk yourself out of it the whole time. So you go and you buy a map and you put it up, and you're like, this is still just in the early stages. And then you're circling countries that you want to go to. And, she had a blue marker and I had a black marker. And if they overlapped, those were the countries we were going to go to. And if you selected it and the other one didn't, you'd have to make a case for why you wanted to go there. And then we bought, we had backpacks from the first time we went to Thailand. So you're pulling out the backpacks and check-in, and then you're buying a life straw and a UV light and a headlamp and all this travel stuff, and it's building and building, and all of a sudden one day you just sit down at a computer, write your resignation, and you kind of go, holy shit, what am I doing? Yeah, it was I don't know, it was weird, it was crazy. I still think it's one of the craziest but best decisions I've ever made in my life.
So was the book, like going back to Marshall's question, was the book always part of the plan?
I've always wanted to write a cookbook. I always love, reading and writing and the things I see with cookbooks, and everybody's got their own opinion about stuff, and I do too. And it's like, oh, I'd like to see that, and I'd like a little bit more story behind this, or why did the author choose that book? But working in the industry, you work 12, 14, 16-hour days, like 5, 6, 7 days a week, and you don't really have time. So coming back from the trip, and bam, where it's a pandemic, you have the time now. We were gifted this time, so it was kind of, I don't know, it was perfect at the same. And I know that the pandemic's terrible, and we're getting through it, but like it was almost perfect for us to come back to, because it gave me the opportunity to write the book that I always wanted to. So
we've actually kind of heard that sentiment from a few different creators and people that we've talked to. Like, first thing that they say is, yeah, of course, this pandemic has been horrible for a lot of people, and our hearts go out to them, but it's also been a gift for other people where they've had a moment to try something different, or shift, or change directions. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it took about a year almost of hours and hours every day, which I wouldn't have been afforded previously. So it was, a gift, as you said.
Did you gain a pretty deep understanding of Asian cuisine and the differences between different countries? I know that there's certain things about Vietnamese food I really prefer over maybe some other Asian cuisines. And anyways, did you feel like you got really immersed in that and really achieved a good understanding of that?
Yeah, one of the main goals for me, I think a lot of times from, if you kind of don't leave North America, you own the perception you have of some of these dishes and cuisines and regional foods are it's very linear. And what I found was, I didn't know half of what I thought I knew. And the great thing about being able to travel to a lot of these countries is you get to learn a lot of the proper techniques and the flavor profiles, and start to understand, why people do certain things. Like, we love ramen here, and ramen's a huge, crazy. It's been booming in the last few years, especially in Waterloo region. The experience I had in Japan, and you start to learn the history of ramen, and the ramen noodle, and as we know it today, and how it came about after World War II, after rice shortages, and they weren't allowed outdoor vendors, so it was essentially a culture that was driven underground, and 90% of the vendors were run by the Yakuza until the late 50s. And like it's crazy when you think about this thing we take for granted when you just go to your local ramen shop and order a $15 bowl of ramen. You don't think about the history that kind of brought that bowl in front of you. So for me, it was a big piece of the trip was to try and understand, how and why am I eating what I'm eating, and why is it important or significant? So.
And what about pad thai? I know whenever I'm able to get a pad thai dish somewhere, they can differ greatly. And oftentimes there's one that I find outstanding, and then everything else kind of comes second or third place to it. Share your experience about pad thai and making pad thai.
Well, pad thai, I actually, I learned, I took a culinary class in Thailand from he didn't win, but he was the runner-up for Top Chef Thailand. So, and he was teaching culinary classes because it was a good way to make money. But pad thai was a dish that was the government put out a bid to try and have the rice was primarily eaten up until the war, and then after World War II, there was a lot of rice shortages, and to avoid starvation, they created rice noodles, but they weren't really adapted by the people. The government liked it because you can yield twice as many rice noodles because there's water and rice starch in it as you would, like 1 pound of rice equals 2 pounds of rice noodles. So it stretches twice as far. But the people weren't really receptive of it. So they were trying to create a way to have people have some national pride in something that they didn't really consume before. So they put out this competition, and they created, anyway, a chef created the dish pad thai, but I think it gets adapted to kind of North American flavor profiles. Thailand is very much about the extremes of sweet, salty, sour, spicy, to the point where if you eat something off a street vendor, they bring out this little caddy with like pickled chilies and chili pastes and chili flakes and vinegar and fish sauce and all these extreme flavors, and everything comes with a little piece of lime or calamansi or something. And I think over here we try and like tone it down, so you get kind of really these, like if you ever get a pad thai and it's like nuclear orange, I don't know where that came from. It's strictly tamarind, lime juice, fish sauce, sugar, like topped with crushed peanuts. It's sautéed with a little bit of bean sprouts, carrot, and scallion. Like it's a very, very simple dish. You go there, it costs you about 80 cents, and somebody will make it for you in about a minute with egg. Like it's insane, and they're doing it on the street off a little butane burner. But I think a lot of places here they kind of hybrid. So you go to a lot of places that are Vietnamese, Thai, Korean restaurants. Well, they're going to kind of specialize in one thing, right? Like the owner's going to be Vietnamese, or he's going to be Thai, or he's going to be, so if you get one that's Vietnamese, you're going to get a better banh mi or bun thit duong or something, where if it's Thai, you might get a better pad thai or curry.
So you got to explore regional dishes. I know a bit about the difference between North and South Indian cuisine. One will use more coconut, the other one will use more mustard seed, something like that.
Yep.
Is that the case with a lot of countries, that there's differences between North and South or East and West?
Yeah, absolutely. Regional variances. There's still a lot of Thailand, for example. If you go up north, there's a great dish called khao soi, which is you start to get a lot of Indian aromatics blended because it's closer to the borders, and the trade route and the spice route. So you get a lot of the Indian aromatics, the cumins, the coriander seeds, the turmerics blended with the fundamental Thai flavors of lemongrass and shallot and ginger and galangal and garlic and things like that into a curry. Where you go down south, there's a large Muslim base, so you lose but you lose a lot of the pork dishes, and a lot of things are made with coconut. Further south you go, I found in India, as you said, but Thailand as well, like coconut milk kind of starts to take over. The regional variances are vast over most countries.
I love in the bio that you sent, there's a piece that says you have a personal interest in all things noodles. I have a personal interest in all things noodles. So you're traveling through Asia, and you went to Europe, and you also went to Africa. Why don't you tell us about that journey? Was it in that order?
Yep. So we started off, I'm originally from BC, so we started out west to say hi to all the family, mainly because the ticket to Japan was actually cheaper, and we wanted to be there for the cherry blossom season. So we went, we spent 3 weeks. It was Golden Week, which I'll never do that again because that's insane. Golden Week is kind of at the end of April, beginning of May, and there's enough Japanese holidays that everybody just gets a week and a half off. So it's packed. Everything is packed. But yeah, we did Japan. Japan, we went through Vietnam. Vietnam, we spent a month in Vietnam, north to south, and then took the Mok Bai land border crossing into Cambodia. Cambodia, we went to Thailand. Thailand, we went to the Philippines. Philippines to Indonesia, Bali specifically, Bali to Malaysia, Malaysia to Singapore, and then we wanted to go to Oktoberfest in Germany, so we went to went there after. But yeah, and then through Europe, pretty much you name it, we went there, and then went to Morocco, Italy, and then Madagascar, Mauritius, India, and Sri Lanka. So then we came home from Sri Lanka. But
Just a few spots.
just a couple.
You came home from Sri Lanka the day before everything shut down.
The 12th. Well, we actually we got out of the airport just after midnight. So technically it was about the 13th when we got out of the airport. So
Wow.
that was the stay-at-home. That was the first stay-at-home order, whatever, pandemic declaration. So it was, and we didn't cut our trip short. Like, we knew something was going on kind of October, November. There were some differences in some of the airports. They had like heat screening up, and there was some military presence in like Hong Kong and a couple of the major airports. So we knew something was up, but it wasn't being talked about. There was nothing. It didn't really seem like it was a big deal. And then my parents actually came to meet us in India. My dad, being a retired engineer, has far too much time to read. So he came over and said, "No, we're going to buy some masks. You're going to take some stuff. This is going to get pretty scary." So, and then we went to Sri Lanka, and then that was our last stop anyway. And then, yeah, we came home, and then the next day it was like, okay, so this is serious. Let's lock down for a bit.
I'm so glad your trip wasn't cut short.
Did you explore food when you were in Germany, or were you just there for Oktoberfest?
The foods we had in Germany were primarily Oktoberfest kind of related. We did hit up a couple of beer halls. I had a lady that used to work for me, who was from Lübeck, so she drove down and met us in Berlin and kind of showed us the ropes. But it was every kind of sausage and smoked ham and cured meat, and yeah, it was primarily about Oktoberfest.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is I didn't know if a chef from Canada, if there's too much to explore there in Germany, if there's much depth in the way they prepare food in restaurants.
I mean, they do have quite a few Michelin star restaurants.
My in-laws argue about it. My husband's parents argue about it because they're like, this is how you cook it. No, this is how you cook it. They have different words because they're from different parts of Germany. So they have different words for potato or celery or whatever. And it's a constant struggle of north versus south.
Yeah. And I think I found that in many, many countries. There's lots of places I would love to go back. I think every country is deserving of so much more time than I was able to give it. Even the places we were in for a month or 5 weeks, and you know, your visa runs out and you're like, I don't feel like I scratched the surface here. So I don't know if it would be a fair assessment in my short time in Germany to say that they're I don't know, I couldn't learn anything from their cuisines or not, but I think there's something to learn from everywhere. So
were you able to tour the kitchens? Like, were you able to see the inside restaurant kitchens?
A few restaurant kitchens, a few home kitchens, a few cooking classes, a few like kind of open concept restaurant things, a lot of street food. So there was lots of opportunities for me to talk to people and take notes and take lots of we took over 12,000 photos. So like it was just nonstop. For me, it was like between like mental documentation, and I took a notebook and just documenting kind of everything I found unique.
Are there benefits to street food, or is it just much more challenging for the people preparing it, or what is it about street food that stands apart from a restaurant?
Isn't there some street food that has Michelin stars?
Yeah. So we went to a few Michelin star hawker stalls in Singapore. That's I mean, street food is life. Like, not a lot of people have the opportunity or the resources to go to top tier restaurants. And as much as I enjoy those, I also enjoy street food, because I think the same amount of passion and heart goes into a street food dish as a Michelin star. Maybe the technique and effort in preparing something in maybe a higher end restaurant, it'll take a bit longer, and it's got a little bit more fine-tuned technique to it. But there's an art and a skill and kind of a love with street food too, that I don't know, there's something beautiful about watching somebody stir fry something and that they've made this dish for the last, I don't know, 30 years, and they almost blindfolded can pick exactly where every ingredient is and put it in and just cook it perfectly every single time. Like there's an art to that perfection as well, and I think there's something to be learned from that side of the craft as well. So
kind of like a musician.
Yeah.
Or we were talking, I mean, these are very different things, but we were talking to Lena Shamoun last year, and she does like hair Olympics, so like super high level competitive hairstyling competitions. And she was saying that's part of her training, knowing that her scissors would be close on the right, and knowing that, because it's timed, right? Knowing where all of her tools are, and she could do it in her sleep. And she said she would fall asleep thinking about the steps and the turns and the movements, almost like dancing. It's
incredible.
Yeah. It sounds like that.
You can hear it in Chef D's TV show too. When he pulls out his thing that squeezes a lemon, right? He talks about it with great love, and how this is the best tool you'll find.
We're going to take a moment to hear from this episode's sponsors. We are supported by Heartbeat Hot Sauce. All of Heartbeat sauces are made with maximum flavor and balance in mind. They've got a range of flavors including red habanero, jalapeno, pineapple habanero, blueberry habanero, piri piri, and a scorching scorpion pepper sauce. Heartbeat Hot Sauce ferments their peppers using traditional methods, then cooks them with a few simple, high-quality ingredients. They add no water, thickening agents, or chemical preservatives. Their sauce is fresh and natural. Whether you're a spice junkie or you have milder tastes, Heartbeat has a flavor for your palate. You can find Heartbeat Hot Sauce in specialty shops like Vincenzo's, La Fromagerie, and the Allura Mercantile, and select Loblaws and Sobeys supermarkets. Visit them at heartbeathotsauce.com and follow them on Instagram and Facebook. They've got a fantastic Pick 4 and Pick 6 box on their website. You should really check it out. Treat your tongue to some exciting new flavors that will raise your heartbeat. We are supported by Maison Orphée. Maison Orphée makes delicious, versatile virgin oils to bring depth to any meal. Whether you're preparing fish, meat, or vegetables, Maison Orphée's healthy oils will elevate your cooking. They even have extra virgin olive oils infused with flavors including basil and lemon, all prepared with the best quality ingredients. Because their oils are cold pressed, all of their taste, color, and health benefits are preserved. Beyond oils, Maison Orphée offers delicious vinaigrettes, salts, mustards, and delightfully fresh mayonnaise. Let Maison Orphée's products transform the cuisine of your maison. Visit maisonorphée.com and find Maison Orphée products at specialty shops like Goodness Me in Waterloo. We are supported by Gina's Spa. This winter, Gina's Spa invites you to rejuvenate and relax. Serving Waterloo Region for over 50 years, Gina's Spa provides a full range of beauty, relaxation, and medi-spa services. Currently Kitchener-Waterloo's top award-winning spa, Gina's state-of-the-art facility provides hospital-level cleanliness. They offer the most advanced spa treatments and products for effective medical-grade results. Gina's incorporates modern advancements with traditional holistic approaches to merge beauty and wellness. In their bright, spacious hair salon, Gina's technical experts will help you achieve your hair goals while prioritizing your hair's health. Their hair designers' enthusiastic pursuit of the latest techniques and use of revolutionary products translates into personalized, fashionable hairstyles that will leave you feeling your most confident. Gina's Spa is a sanctuary conveniently located in the center of Uptown Waterloo at 6 Regina Street North. You can book an appointment online at ginaspa.com or call 519-886-2090. You deserve to look and feel your best. Trust Gina's. And now back to the show.
Tell us about Africa.
Africa. Ooh.
Wait, and then we have to get back on noodles.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Africa, we did Morocco and Madagascar and Mauritius. So we kind of we outskirted around. We did have Kenya and Uganda on the docket. There were some domestic troubles at the times that we were about to go there. That was kind of a large challenge with doing, about 14 months consecutively over the course of the countries. You couldn't kind of plan too far ahead because you didn't know how the political climate was going to be, if there's any how the actual physical climate was going to be, if there was something happening. So we kind of ended up skirting around, which I think was unfortunate, but also a blessing in the sense that we got to add on a couple stops that we originally hadn't planned on. So we got an opportunity last minute to go to Madagascar, which, I never thought in a million years I'd go to. And that was, Madagascar is incredible. No lions and no zebras, contrary to the movie. But the food there is absolutely not a single thing they do not grow, from varietals of Brussels sprouts and asparagus and apples to pineapples to passion fruits to tomatoes to potatoes I was trying to trick every single person I met in a market into telling me something that they don't grow. They literally grow every piece of organic material you can imagine. It's pretty incredible. And their food was actually very, very good. They have a varietal of cattle there called a zebu. Zebu, yep. So it's essentially a cow that has a large hump on its back made of fat, and they use these cattle as a currency and investments, and they won't take money to a bank. They'll buy a zebu, but at the end of the life cycle, they eat them. So they're very flavorful, but when you have older animals like that, you have to braise them out. But the opportunity that they have is they have a bunch of these vegetables and this produce that they grow. So kind of mixed with some of the spices they pick up from a lot of the trade. They were a big stopover from Southeast Asia for ships that would go around Africa. So they have some really kind of crazy fusion cuisine. Like we were at a restaurant that served Vietnamese food. They had kind of stowed away on a ship after the Vietnam War, and the ships would bring kind of they would stop and these people would stow away, and then they'd get off all over French kind of settled Africa, and then have to make a life. So it was neat to see that. So you see fish sauce in dishes, and spring rolls on menus, and these cool like stir fried peanut dishes and things. But they have Roma Zava, I think, is in the cookbook, and Ravi Tutu, which are both very good stews served with rice, very fragrant, aromatic, fresh. I have a story about a gentleman who has been serving a thing called kuba, which is ground peanuts and sugar, and they roll it in this banana leaf and they cook it for like a day and a half in these fire pits, and then they carve it off, and it's just this protein and sugar packed thing that people eat as a lunch snack. And the guy had been in this.
It's sweet. It's like a sweet, like a.
Yeah, it's like sweet and savory. So it's rice flour, ground peanut, and sugar, and it's just this densely protein packed round, and they cook it until it's super caramelized. But this guy had been selling it on this next to a bus station or a bus stop just outside of Antananarivo for 40 years. And I got to meet him and through a translator, talk to him about how he makes it every night. His wife cooks it while he's selling the one that he brings. And they just cut off a piece, they put it in, and I got to try it. And it was awesome. They were some of the most friendly people, beautiful scenery, so vibrantly green and blue, and the food was outstanding, and the lemurs are super cute.
Did you come back to Canada with kind of different eyes on how you see our region and the kind of restaurants we have, and do you look at it differently?
I think I start seeing. I came back with kind of two different perspectives. One that we're very fortunate and privileged to be in a place where you can just turn the tap on and drink water. That hit me. Like, that was realizing that access to food and clean water is it's not, everybody doesn't have the same opportunity to do that. But two, I started kind of looking at things I may have looked at in a negative light with I don't know, more optimism. I think a lot of people look at a tiny little restaurant in a back alley is kind of, ooh, I don't want to, that's scary. I don't want to, but try and find the story behind that. Maybe they're, a new family to the country and they're trying to make a living, and maybe it's the best whatever you've ever, like, I don't know. You want to try kind of everything now. I scare a lot less easy now. I think
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
I like that.
So,
but I get that feeling. We're obsessed with cleanliness and kind of bright, shiny glitz and making sure that any of our, especially right now, everyone's extra cautious.
Did the kitchens you saw, how do they differ from North America? So I haven't really been to any restaurant kitchens. My only idea is like watching Friends and seeing Monica in her kitchen. And a lot of those shows portray it as very high stress. First of all, I guess, can you comment on that? And again, how they may or may not differ from other parts of the world?
Kitchens vary as much as cuisine does. As I said, we've eaten off of people cooking off a propane tank in a wok that I'm sure hasn't been washed in a few weeks on a street corner.
If ever.
Up to restaurants that have, bright lights, everything stainless steel and shiny and clean and what I'm used to anyway. And kind of anything in between. But, I think the main thing that I learned is the similarities between the two is that, you don't need all the the fancy toys and the big equipment. It's more about the passion and the love that you can put into a dish, and your surroundings and the people that you're with, and every there's so much more to a meal than just the food itself. And the one big thing that I picked up was that if you have an okay meal, but you're surrounded by friends and family, and you're in a good setting, and you're happy with everything, and you're at the end of a good day, that's gonna be one of the best meals you've ever had, regardless of what you're actually eating. If it's just rice and some tofu and broccoli, like, then at least it's
one of my personal favorite combinations.
Well, I think that echoes what Chef D said to us too. A lot of it has to do with memories and our feelings around
food memories. Yeah.
What do you learn working with someone like Chef D? I know, like, for me, I can just watch a whole half hour show of him making custard, like lemon custard or bread or something. And but what have you learned from working with Chef D?
Oh, we got to tap some maple trees this year and make our own maple syrup. That was something I've never done before, so that was really cool.
That's fun.
I mean, the man is about wood fire, like wood-fired pizza ovens, wood-fired grills, wood-fired. So I've had a bit of experience with stuff like that, but he very much enjoys this primal connection between a good steak and a wood-fired grill. And I don't know, watching him in his element when he does stuff like that is kind of I don't know, you watch the love between somebody making something that they're really passionate about. It's kind of, I don't know, that reconnecting with that style of food and cookery, I think, is something that I can definitely say I'm trying to pick up, at least.
So I don't know how we got off this topic, but we were going to talk about noodles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Obviously, you've told us about some of the great ramen dishes that you've had. We went through pad thai, but we didn't touch any of Europe at all.
Yeah, I mean, Italy, Florence is one of my favorite cities in Europe. Beautiful wine bar right on the steps of Pitti Palace that serves some fantastic pastas. Noodles in varying formats, I think, and what you can do with them. And the fact that it's so universal, it's almost like I would say noodles and I would say curries, because those are two very universal foods in the sense that they eat curries all over Africa, they eat curries in the Middle East, they eat curries in India and Sri Lanka and all over East Asia, they eat curries in Japan, they eat versions of curries in Latin America. So noodles, if you count, dumplings, then you can start to transcend into pierogies, and Russians eat dumplings, and Germans have spatzel, and Italy obviously is pasta, and I don't know. Noodles are they're kind of life in a lot of the world, rice and noodles. So
It's a go-to meal for me in any form. It's usually often noodles and something. So that's making me wonder. What's your wife's name?
Alana.
So at the end of a busy day, regular work day, you guys get home and somebody's throwing together a meal. What's it going to be?
That's a tough one. I mean, today's pasta. So
I was going to say any answer other than noodles is the wrong answer.
Yeah, I was going to say. I don't know. We've come back with such a diverse palette that I think we're forced to make something kind of different every day just to keep it exciting for ourselves. It's not, it's not Taco Tuesday and, Spaghetti Wednesday and whatever that, and not that it was kind of that basic before, but, you kind of find you fall into these kind of habits or trends that, and now it's like, we had biryani and dal makhni the other night that we made, and we did fresh sausage, and she handmade a bunch of pierogies, and I don't know, it's diverse now. So,
and where are things at right now with tofu and plant-based foods in terms of being a chef? Like, is it something where every restaurant's kind of like, well, let's venture here and see what we can do?
I mean, there's definitely validity behind the science and the fact that we consume far too much protein. I don't think I'll ever be able to go vegetarian or vegan, but I think being conscientious of our meat consumption and our protein consumption, we can definitely find alternatives to kind of reduce our overall meat consumption. And I think being mindful of where you're sourcing your proteins from is a large part of the problem. Wanting to get the cheapest, I don't know, prime rib means you're forced to go to somewhere that supports the factory farming system, which is part of the big problem. You could eat meat every day if you could find somebody who can do it sustainably, though you run into cost issues. So, I mean, that's a very tough argument with, good arguments to be made on both sides of the coin. My personal belief, we need to reduce our protein consumption in this, like animal protein consumption. So utilizing other sources of plant-based proteins is definitely a good alternative. In restaurants, you're seeing it more and more and more. The demand seems to be significantly higher than it ever was. Before I left, I know, like Limitless and then Beyond Meat and all these guys were starting to come to the table. It seems to have kind of leveled off a little bit, and I think that's only due to the fact that there's no drive to be in a restaurant and compete kind of head to head for who's got the best vegan dish. Now it's just trying to see who can survive, to be honest with you. It's all about survival now. I think we've unfortunately had to take, 5 steps back. We're making great leaps and strides on, getting rid of single-use plastics and trying to go to, better alternatives for the planet and eco-friendly and reducing waste. And then you kind of unfortunately had to throw a lot of that out the window. You had to choose between the survival of your restaurant and doing the right thing. And that's not a position I ever want to be in, to be honest with you, or anybody should have to be in, but it's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I remember feeling a little bit shocked the first couple of times we ordered takeout or delivery at the beginning of the pandemic, because it'd been a long time since I'd seen a styrofoam container with plastic utensils. It's kind of shocking. You're like, oh, I thought we didn't do this anymore. But of course we do it. And it was a necessity so these businesses could survive. But you're right. Yeah, we've really fallen back now.
We put a lot of them away, and we weren't using them because there was a drive for the eco containers and the biodegradable stuff. But that got snapped up right away, and we weren't getting the supply back in to restock. Mm-hmm. So we had, like, if you wanted to put it in something, you can't really send everything out in Ziploc bags, unfortunately, which is like reusable containers are frowned upon. So I don't know what the answer is, to be honest with you.
Actually, you mentioned plastic bags in your travels. I've always wanted to do this. Were you ever served a plastic bag drink? I've seen this on TV and I'm like, I want a plastic bag drink, but sorry, Earth. What did you get?
A lot of condiments, actually. And a lot of Southeast Asian countries come in like a little tiny plastic bag with an elastic band tied around it. Yeah. You can get teas and stuff. They'll like shake them up and then they pour them in a bag to take out. It's
with a
strange,
straw
but I
stuck
guess,
in the side of it. Yeah.
Strange, but economical, I guess.
Your photos are gorgeous. I was flipping through the book, and then on your Instagram, well, first of all, there's a great photo of you with a jellyfish in your mouth. Is that it? At first, I was like, is he holding onto a flower?
I thought it might have been a little octopus or something.
Or maybe it's an octopus.
Yeah, that was in Skiji. Oh,
go ahead. I'm so sorry.
That's good. No, that's okay. I was in Skiji Market in Tokyo. And that was a little octopus. They were barbecuing little octopus.
I had to look down at the plate you were holding to see what it was that you had in your mouth. It's a beautiful photo, the way that it's taken. You
mentioned curry in Japan. What kind of Japanese dishes have curry?
It's a Japanese curry. It's like a red curry, really really mildly spiced. It's got potatoes and beef in it. There wasn't more than a couple of curry dishes. There was a miso curry butter ramen. That's actually in the cookbook that I had in Aomori, which was absolutely unbelievable. You find a lot of those curries up north, where the weather's colder, less down south. But yeah, it's definitely not a large staple of their diet, but they're definitely present.
Can you reflect on your career as a chef? Is it everything you were hoping for, and does it bring you joy every day, or are there some days that just are full of frustration and perseverance?
There's challenges to every job, but to be honest with you, there's that really kind of sappy, overplayed adage of if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. But I think that's true. I don't think it's a very tough industry that puts a lot of pressure on people for perfection, and it's very hard and strenuous as far as working hours and the amount of work you do in a week, and kind of all the different outlets you have to be responsible for and keeping on your toes. And I think if it wasn't something that I love to do, I think I either would have A, cracked, or B, left the industry altogether long ago. Food, it's not how food makes me feel, it's when I get to witness how my food makes other people feel. So if I can serve something to somebody and they sit there and they get that facial expression of just total, I don't know, it's just pure joy or pure happiness and making them happy. And that one instance will make up for an entire bad week. So that's the high that we always chase, I guess, in the industry. And that's kind of what keeps us there. And I'm very happy doing it.
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.